I'm Ejan from the INXO Arts and Culture Foundation. I will be your moderator for tonight. We have been running this series since 11th of April, so there will be consecutive 5 nights. We are on our 4th night tonight. Every night we try to feature one Malaysian artist, and they will pick one of their work and talk to us about the motivation, the challenges, and the process of creating the work. So today we are very lucky that we have Sow Yee joining us. Hello, Sow Yee.
Hi.
So would you like to introduce yourself a little bit, who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm Sow Yee, and I'm from Malaysia, but I'm currently based in Taiwan. I'm a artist. I hate to say cross-disciplinary, but I'll say artist in general. So I mainly the work that I've been doing recently are mainly video installations. I used to do a bit of performances with film projectors, and used to collaborate also with some theater company or theater performances. But now I'm quite focused on on the visual arts part, contemporary art.
Right. So basically, we always start with a little bit of a quick question challenge.
Mm-hmm.
To, bring everyone into this more relaxed mode of like not so serious.
Okay, I hope I can be relaxed.
It is. It's very simple, so it's very straightforward. You only need one word answer, and there's only 10 questions. So very instinctive. You don't have to explain, don't have to think too long, and it's only one word. Okay?
Okay, I'll try. I'll try my best. Yes.
Okay, so question number 1. What is your hobby?
My hobby? Sleeping.
Okay, question 2. If you could choose a place for holiday right now, where will you go?
A remote island.
Question 3. What does love means to you?
Trust.
Question 4. Name 3 items you would bring on a trip around the world for 80 days.
Around the world for 80 days. An iPad. A toothbrush. And a soup.
Okay. Question 5. What is your favorite song?
My favorite song. Recently, my favorite song is what's the title of the song? I can't remember the title, but one of the lyrics are "The ground control to Major Tom." Yeah. Suddenly blackout. I can't remember the name of the song. Space Oddity.
Okay, question 6. What would you do to battle a zombie?
Being invisible.
Question 7. If there's a time machine, would you travel to the past or the future?
Pass.
Question number 8. What is the Malaysian food you miss the most while you're living in Taiwan?
Well, there are a lot of it. Laksa.
Question number 9. What do you prefer, a comedy or romance?
Comedy.
Okay, last one. So what is the first thing you would like to do after this movement control period?
Well, this is a bit tricky for me because I am not movement. My movement are not being controlled. Well, probably change my flight ticket and fly back.
Right. Okay. So we're done with all 15 questions. Yeah. So when you said you're not under movement control, so how is the situation in Taiwan, and what is your experience over these past few weeks? Because we
Well, I
understand
think,
it's pretty well controlled in Taiwan, as far as we understand. So maybe you can share with us the situation.
Well, I think the situation is quite, as you say, is pretty much control, but still, it seems like there's it seems like there's a very strange atmosphere in the society, because every day when you go out, you have to wear a mask, because now it's against the law if you don't wear a mask when you are taking the public transportation, such as the MRT or the bus. You get a fine for that. And sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I think it's over paranoid and kind of like it's really a very strange atmosphere here, because everybody is talking about where to get the mask. Is really strange, and you need to get your temperature checked everywhere, almost everywhere you go, and social distancing are always being emphasized. And you feel scared, or you will feel people getting paranoid or getting scared when you, for example, you sneeze or you cough in an MRT, and then you literally see people in front of you. They are trying to move away further from you. So yeah, I think it really changed human behaviors, and also the relations between people during this time.
Yeah, it's true. It's pretty scary. Now, I had a feeling, because I have been staying home since the 18th of March. I literally never go out at all. So sometimes I do a little bit of order, and then I went to pick up the order, and then you see a human being, and then you feel like, okay, that is human. I have to stay away. And then really, really strange.
Human equivalent to virus.
Yeah. So and then I start to feel like, hey, I'm a little bit crazy. Why am I like, when you see human, you feel like, okay, I'm scared of human being. I don't want human being.
And you're prohibited to shake your hands or to any close contact is prohibited. So it's it's really strange.
Yeah, it's a really, really weird feeling. So we actually request Sow Yee to pick a work of from her collection of all the works. So there's this work from the Mengkerang Project that you had called Pak Tai Foto. But before we go into this work, could you maybe share with us, how did you started to become an artist actually?
How do I started to become an artist? This seems like a tough question.
But you were trained in the visual.
Yeah, I was trained in theater, in experimental filmmaking, and also in new media arts. So but I actually started with collaboration, especially with the theater scene in Malaysia quite some time ago. But then I decided to take a little break for myself, to regenerate myself. So so then I came to Taiwan and restart again. And I think I don't know. I think it's quite natural for me to create works, especially if there are issues or things that I'm interested in, or I like to questions on, or things that I have questions on. Then I'll like to explore it myself. So I think it's quite a natural process.
Yeah. So, so what is the motivation behind creating this Mengkerang project?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
The motivation is was the Mengkerang project actually. If I remember it correctly, it was a project that started in 2013. If folks in Malaysia remember, that's where the general election was.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the general election, as usual, the questions of ethnicity was being raised. And so it gave me a huge impact, not of the result, but when I'm looking at the process as how the issues of ethnicity was being generated, especially in social media, and you can see how people saying themselves as we and the others as the others. Mm-hmm. So there are some people grouping together saying that we are we and then the others are the others, but it depends on different circumstances. So I'm actually a bit sad about the situation. So I just asked myself questions on how the perception of ethnicity or the perception of this Bangsa Cina, Bangsa Melayu, or Bangladeshi immigrant workers, all this of ethnicity were being shaped in, for example, in our education system. Yeah. So, or in our process of growing up. So I just, the Mengkerang Project started as a response to that situation, especially the first part of the Mengkerang Project. So it's a project basically of, I created a illusionary or an imaginary place. It might be an island that in the first part of the Mengkerang Project, when I invited some friends to participate in the project, to tell a story on Mengkerang and to define Mengkerang, if it is an ideal place, it meshed so much on the reality of Malaysia. So it kind of becoming kind of like a historianum of Malaysia in some way, or a reflection or a mirror. And then the story of Mengkerang starts to evolve into part 2 and then part 3.
Mm-hmm. So it was not planned as coming in 3 parts in the very beginning, or?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So for those of you who are following the live video, if you follow this INXO Arts and Culture Foundation Facebook, we will post this information later after the talk. So you can actually also search online for Sow Yee and Mengkerang Project. There was some information, video clips, photos, and explanation about the project. So what is actually mean, this Mengkerang word? It's a made-up word, or it actually exists? What does that mean?
Well, it's a make-up word. So it's a made-up word. So the initial idea was I need to create a place. So it needs to have a name. And so I would like the name to sound a bit like Malaysian, Indonesian, like kind of like Malay archipelago kind of term. And then there's also the issue of Mengkerang during that time. So why not I can mix Medan and Mengkerang together and mix it like Mengkerang. Yeah. So that's kind of a little idea of how I make up the name of the place.
So I understand you actually spent quite a lot of time doing research for this project. There's quite a lot of effort in the process of research. And so how did that research went, and what was the biggest challenge in the process of the research?
Well, the Mengkerang Project was quite some time ago. I think it ranged from 2013 and then until 2015. The research, I mean, the method are different for different parts. Like I did a lot of travel for the first part, and then I did also a research on the Malayan emergency for the second part, where I create kind of like a folk story or a myth for Mengkerang. And so it's a lot of it's some studies into the archives. I mean, looking at archival materials and then browsing through a lot of informations, and also interviewing people. Yeah, kind of like that. So the methods are different.
Yeah, so particularly for this part 3, the Pak Tai Foto. So how did that research went, and then what?
Yeah. Well, the creation of Pak Tai Foto was it was quite the creation of the work is quite of like instinct, because Pak Tai Foto was near the what's the name, Jalan Petaling, right? Chichiangkai.
Yes.
And it used to be, it is very near Stadium Merdeka and Dataran Merdeka and all those specific site or memorial site for the independence of the country. But why I started, maybe I talk a bit off, because why I started to make the work, wants to make the work Pak Tai Foto was because there was once then the location of it then become being disguised by many people saying that it was occupied by immigrants and foreign workers, undocumented or illegal foreign workers, and it's very dirty or something like that. So I think for me, they do have their own stories, and people make them so visible, but citing them as the dirty one. So it's very interesting because of the location where Pak Tai Foto is, that it was very much in the center of where the glorious part of the Malaya time during the British colonization, but then throughout years after independence and until 21st century, then it become kind of like a ghetto for foreign workers. With, I mean, local people rarely go there anymore. But because I have a very special memory about the location, was because I used to live near the Jalan Hang Tuah Memorial Station. I live just at the side of it, and there's this flat, government flat that I used to live. So it's very easy for me to walk from where I live to Jalan Petaling, and then to wander around that place. So the changes of the place, or the changes of perception of the location, really impacts me. So then I started to make the work Pak Tai Foto. And if you have a chance to see the work, the video part later, you will listen to a lot of interviews and conversations, basic interviews with, you can assume them as foreign workers from different parts of the world. But you won't see their faces, you only listen to their sound. But what you see is the location where is the interior of Pak Tai Foto.
So you actually went into took the video in the building of Pak Tai Foto itself.
Yeah, yeah, we, yeah, I have a friend who, Alison was my producer at that time, so she talked with the owner, and then we finally persuade him to let us shoot. I think for at least half day.
Right.
But we need to stop.
Is it still in use, or is it because it looks a little bit like abandoned for a while?
Well, at that time when we were shooting, it was still in use actually. So the most interesting thing was because Pak Tai Foto is like a real photo studio in the then city center of Kuala Lumpur. And because the owner I don't think he did much renovation for the place. So it's a very unique and very, I think it's a very unique place to be in, because you almost feel like there are layers of time layering within the site or within the space itself. So you have a very strange feeling when you're in it. It's as if time freeze. The only changes was he has a Mac, I think, computer in his office.
Because the facade of the building was really time freeze. Like every time I walk past,
I think it's still looks like that. But Pak Tai Foto actually he moved, but to I think to not next building. He's in the same block, but not the same address.
So there seems to be in between an archival approach and a narrative that you try to create. So I think a lot, maybe in this work in particular, in Pak Tai Foto. So how did you see yourself balancing this reality archival material and the imaginative realm that you try to create through the narrative and the storytelling?
Well, I don't think archival materials are reality or they are the truth, because when we are talking about history or historiography, for my opinion, is always on which perspective you are writing for, right? So it's an ability of fictioning a scenario rather than it's the truth, because you see sometimes if the government changes, then you when you look through the history books, then you find some differences on how they narrate the stories, or which part of the history was being taken away, or which part are being emphasized, and which is visible and which is invisible. So I think archival materials or archives that we always relate it to a reference to the history or something that we always think that is the past, I think is very much fictional. In a way. Is so I don't think, because there's a very blur line here that we rarely admit it, but I think for me it is a question of what if I made the initiative to blur the line? So what will happen then if I blur the line, and what are the things that will be revealed if I did this? And so I tried in different ways in different projects.
Is there any way we can see this work? Is it available online? Is it on an online platform, or is any chances audience could see this work?
Well, this is I think this is a still image from the video of Pak Tai Foto. And I think I have another. Yeah, actually, Pak Tai Foto was an installation, so it's a two-channel installation. Two videos side by side, one a bit behind, and then you see light boxes, standing light boxes in the space, and on those light boxes there are actually maps. And this is also one of the still of the Pak Tai Foto. So it's kind of like you can see the space. So it's kind of like what I've just mentioned. It's like you feel like you are traveling back in time.
Yeah.
And then it's a layering time, and then you listen to this sound, and then you have some ambience from the space, some people telling you their stories and telling you how they travel and telling you about their dream on where they want to travel in the future, be it they want to go to Europe or they want to go to United States. So yeah, that's Pak Tai Foto.
Yeah. So, but we can only see the video clip, the short clip. It's on your website, right? It's there. The full length is not open to public online.
Well, actually, I opened the full length to public on my Vimeo link. So
Right.
because
So
because I used to lock it with a password.
Right.
But then I unlock it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So for a period of time, not forever, right?
Not forever, but the day when the MCO ends, then it will be the day I lock the video.
Okay, so we have to watch it within this period of time, yeah. So for those who are interested, we will share the link, the Vimeo link on the Facebook page later.
It's just 15 minutes. It won't take up a lot of time.
Okay, so you can watch it preferably tonight. How if we end the MCO sooner? Yeah. So it's like most of your work were presented in galleries, in museums, and sometimes in theater. But with this situation of the COVID-19 going, with all these public spaces closing down temporarily and the social distancing issue, so how does that influence your work right now? And what is your plan in near future?
Well, I have exhibitions showing my older works being cancelled. So for now, I'm still making new work, but because my habit was that I don't, because for some people, some artists, they only work on the new works if they have the chance or they have the opportunity or adequate funding for the work. But for me, because most of the time it always starts with research, and also how I look at the situation or the issues that I'm been interested in. So for me, right now, I'll just continue of what I will be doing and see if there's a chance to realize it or not. So if it's not being cancelled, then it will be made faster. But if not, but if cancelled, then I'll just do it slowly, because I think it's a creation, or for me, artworks or works that I've been doing are always a long time process. So it's not a one-off thing. So I think it's always important to put myself together to work on something regardless of the situation change.
So usually, what do you wish the most for your work? What do you expect? Like, or if we put it this way, how do you measure success as an artist?
Well, it's always a tough question on how do you measure whether one artist is successful, one artist is not successful. If some people might see it as a numerical kind of evaluation, like how many shows you're in, how many countries have you been traveled to, how many big institution shows that you're in, and how is the sales of your work. And but I think for me, I think for the most important thing is when there's one audience or some audience that really look into your work and would like to make a conversation with you. I think I think that's the most precious part that you get when you are being an artist, because there are someone that really wants to talk to you about your work, be it criticizing or be it they like it or not. I think is a very precious thing if the audience would give you a response, and I think it's really important.
Yeah, it's interesting enough because this is actually my next question. So does actually audience feedback, I mean, how did that affect your work? Yeah, because usually we do get a lot of different feedback from different perspectives. Sometimes it might go along the same line of what the artist think, but sometimes it might be totally in opposite, or people might like it, but people might not. But yeah, so how did that affect your work or your creation?
I think we need to. For me, I need to be very cautious about this, and I need to take a lot of precautions, because if people like your work, you need to, then that's a point of danger that you'll be too self-indulged, or that you are not self-criticizing enough to move forward, or to make a better work. But if people criticize, they don't like your work, you might be upset for a while. But I think it's a fine line here, because sometimes we'll be starting thinking about, like, should we react to what they don't like? Should we change the thing? I think is always good to not make any fast changes, because it might not be the perfect solution, and it might run away from what you originally want to do. But I think for me, it's always good to listen to criticism, and then listen to people's suggestions, and then to let it cool down for a while, and then rethink about it. But I think people criticisms are really is more precious than people praising you, because they did take time to criticize your work, and they give you really honest questions. Because sometimes when you are an artist that you are not a newcomer anymore, that you are in certain status, you won't have honest word. So people won't be honest to you. They'll be, your work is really good, or something, like smiling too. But deep in your heart, you might feel, I think there's something wrong with with the work. It couldn't be. But there'll be a time or a level when you don't have this honest critiques anymore. So yeah, I think we need to be positive to critiques. But not swiftly reacted to the critique.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's a few points here. I think it's artists is really brave people. I think they are role model of being a very brave person, because it's really very stressful to put your work up, because there will be people who criticize it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that um bravery, it's actually like a role model of how we should actually look back into ourselves and ask questions, I think. And the whole point of art existing, I think it's to as a platform to start up conversation, actually. And with all this criticizing, it's a form of conversation that is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think conversation is really important because it will, because through conversations it will sparks your idea, and
Yeah.
it, it might open up another dimension for you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah. Yeah. So if there is a commission coming up for you, what will be a content direction that you will be interested to explore? Is there anything that you particularly want to do?
Mm, I'm actually I'm quite interested in the issue of navigation recently.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I go back to Malaysia in KL,
Mm-hmm.
and then when my younger sister is driving, she's always with she always has a phone at in the car and open up the Waze maps,
Yeah.
and I always laugh at her and saying that Waze is your best friend,
Yeah.
because she can't live without Waze.
Yeah.
so Waze is like a navigational apps, same
Yeah.
like Google Maps.
Yeah.
So and because navigation system was actually started up from the military inventions in the United States, so it has a very political background, political history on it, and also there are a lot of stories of about drivers using the Waze app in Malaysia, but ended up getting lost in palm trees plantation, or getting lost somewhere that the navigational map actually
Mm-hmm.
navigates them into a lost world. So I think maybe there's some metaphorical kind of situation there that's very interesting. So yeah, I don't know how to or what to deal with it, but I do have plans to connect these things with another historical figure that I'm working on right now.
Mm-hmm. Right. So there are a few questions coming in from the audience. So first one, why do you choose 2-channel video installation to show this Pak Tai Foto?
Why 2-channel installation? Actually, Pak Tai Foto was my first attempt to make a 2-channel video.
Uh-huh.
So and it's a challenge for me. But I think for a 2-channel video, sometimes it acts like a reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it looks like a combined image, but sometimes it's like a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a questions also on how how do we, or how these people are being interviewed in the Pak Tai Foto, they are being viewed, or are they a mirror to ourselves? Because, for example, sometimes, like in Malaysia, sometimes Chinese will say that they are the others in the society. So,
Yeah.
but sometimes at some point they'll say that these foreign workers are the others. So it's a kind of a strange situation here. So I think the 2-channel video also speaks about the duality, but also the sometimes we are the same, or sometimes we are not the same, but sometimes we are overlapping after all.
Yeah, right.
You are not higher than any of them.
Yeah. Right. There's another one coming in. As a Malaysian based in Taiwan, is there any difference in the creative environment between two countries?
Well,
we can talk for 1 hour on this topic.
Yes. Well, yeah, it's the answer could be really long.
Yeah.
But to make it simple, like this is just a little bit of the observation. To make works in Taiwan might seems be like there are no restrictions at all. But actually there are restrictions.
As in like censorship, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it might seem like there are no censorship at all, but I personally think there are some undercurrents in the down part. But in Malaysia, there are more issues on censorship than in Taiwan. But I really miss the multilingual environment in Malaysia, actually, because Taiwan is not a mono ethnic society. It still has like aboriginal people, indigenous people, and the quote unquote Chinese, not from China, but yeah, but the language wise is not as diverse as Malaysia, and cultural wise.
Yes. And does that affect your creation or your work, the process of creation?
Well, I think I'm being very cautious about this. So I always try to balance myself in this environment. So I'll go back. I'll return to Malaysia whenever I can, to work on something, or just to stay in the country, or to stay in the city as well, to look at things.
How about the audience? Like, how do you see difference with audience engagement or response?
Well, I would say in Taiwan there are more audience that are more enthusiastic to getting you into a conversation. You certainly would get more critiques in Taiwan, be it good reviews or bad reviews. But in Malaysia, it's always a question that you don't have critiques, or you might have conversations, but with people in the same field as you, but you rarely get serious conversations, or you rarely get serious critiques and reviews from Malaysia. I think that's a difference.
There's another one coming. Where do you usually find inspiration?
Sometimes from memories, or sometimes because I like to look around, especially archival materials or things in film history. So when I saw something, then that that kinds of triggers me to further make the work, or to further make the research. I think that's how I get inspiration. I do some readings for quite a lot, and I do see things, and I think inspirations can be from everywhere. It can be just a film that you saw, a music that you listened to, a man standing on the street that you managed to encounter in your everyday life. I think it can be everywhere, and so it's the same situation for me too.
Yep. There is this question coming in, but it's a little bit overlap with a little bit of what we have said earlier during the COVID-19 situation. So has there been any significant impact on your artistic practice or process during the current pandemic situation?
Well, because my current works are mostly on the visual arts side, there are some exhibitions not in Taiwan that are being cancelled, and some pending projects, and even if the exhibition will try to make it, for example, in July, but you'll be told by the curator or the museum staffs that you need to have a plan B for that. That you can't have anything in the exhibition space that the audience will have direct contact with, meaning they cannot touch. If you have a book that you need them to flip through, then forget about it.
Yes.
You have to have plan B where they can only just look but not touching anything, and you don't ever let the audience wear things. For example, like headphones are prohibited, so because it's regarded as close contact with your skin. So so it's like you need to have plan B for everything. And if your project involve you to do research outside of Taiwan or outside of Malaysia, then forget about it also, and make a plan B instead, where you can research online and by not flying anywhere. And I think I think that these impacts is not big impacts, because I think the biggest impact was how we are doomed into a strange situation, and how we react to it, because it really changes human relation a lot, on how we interact with each other.
Yeah. Okay, one last question here. What role does the artist have in society?
Well, for me, I always thought that being an artist is being someone to raise the questions or to ask the questions rather than giving one. Because I think bringing up questions is important, because rather than giving the answers to questions, because sometimes we tend to give, because if you're looking for an answer, then you are actually imagining that it will be a definite one. So if it's a very vague answer, well, maybe you won't buy that. But I think to question something, or because from questioning, the next step is maybe you might be revealing something that is hidden behind a normality that we always consider it normal, but actually maybe it's not. So by raising questions, then it will kind of unleash these ghosts or these phantoms hide behind this normality, and that actually inside it might be a darker side, or it might be a more complicated situation.
Yeah. I think that's also something that sometimes it's people find it a little challenging, because there is this fear of going deeper into yourself, to ask questions and to find that answer. But it's a very worthwhile process. That's why, I think arts is that very important area that exists to do that, to play that role of asking questions. Yeah.
I think in a way it's like it's also like asking questions is also like a quest.
Yeah.
So it's like an adventure, a quest for you to. From asking questions, you might go to another dimension, or it might be a new situation that they'll be welcoming you. So yeah.
So to end this whole thing, do you have any advice for those who wants to pursue a career as a visual artist or as an artist?
Well, I won't dare to say advice, but
or any words of encouragement.
Any words of encouragement? I think you just do what you are really interested in. Don't think about whether the work will sell, or whether people will like it or not. Don't think about it first, because the first and foremost and the most important thing for people to get to know you, or people would like to get people to have a conversation with you, is you have to be interested on what you like to put up, or what you like to speak about first. So if words of encouragement, just do what you are really interested in. Don't think about others first. I think opportunities or chances will come naturally if you really work hard on it. You don't need to find opportunity first, rather than just focus on your work.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us today. For those who are following, thanks for joining us today. Tomorrow we have our last session at the same time, 8 p.m. Malaysia time. So please come back tomorrow. And remember to like and follow the Facebook page. And I wish you all good health. Stay home. And remember to wash your hands always. And stay healthy. Right? Thank you. Thanks, Sow Yee.
Thank you,
everyone. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.